Nice. Well, guys, we're back, and it's the Eagles Watch Pod. It's your boy FX, and we're talking everything Nigerian football, the African qualifiers for the World Cup as well, and everything in between for sure. And of course, I've got my man here who I haven't seen in a while, Joga Afro and Mbizo. My man, it's been a minute. The last time we spoke was during the AFCON in
I think so.
Where was it last year? Who hosted the last AFCON last year?
It was Ivory Coast.
Ivory Coast, thank you.
It was Ivory Coast, our resident champions.
Honestly, man, my mind was already going to.
You're moving to the next one, yeah.
I was already thinking of Morocco. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
For the Super Eagles for sure. I mean, everybody thought us beating Ivory Coast in the group stages was enough for us to beat them in the final. That might have been a repeat of what happened in Algeria 90, where the hosts beat Nigeria in the first game, but still went on to beat Nigeria 1-0 in the final, 5-1 in the first game, 1-0. So we thought we might be able to turn it around, and it wasn't to be. The host still did it. But yeah, we had to beat South Africa, your boys, your team, to get their very, very tough game. In recent years, the Bafana have improved. And I want us to go straight into it. I know Akpos is most likely going to join us soon as well, and we're going to dissect the Nigerian side of things. But for South Africa, boy, oh boy, you guys have done something, really. And credit has to go to the coach for sure, the FA, and how you guys have improved over the years. You're sitting on top of the World Cup qualifying group, easy, except for that blunder, I would say, from your FA. But yeah, take me through it. I mean, the most important thing is the core, as I said earlier. A lot of local-based players, Mamelodi Sundown players, and there. Rowan Williams, the goalkeeper of the year, the CAF goalkeeper of the year, wonderful goalkeeper is there. You know, the likes of Mokoena as well are all there. You know, so even the guy that scored, the 35-year-old that scored the first goal against Super Eagles in the first game that ended 1-1, he didn't make this last qualifiers for you. You know, so take me through what's been happening in South African football, Mbizo.
Yeah, well, bro, you're right. The last couple of years have actually been, by South Africa's recent standards, have been a rousing success. I'm partly proud about that. I'm partly disappointed the fact that what we've done can be considered a success, but in comparison to the other years, it obviously is. I'm not a huge fan. I'll be very honest of Hugo Broos. Less tactically and footballistically speaking, more his attitude and his political leanings. I tend to find him a little bit arrogant, especially in the African context. As a person, some of the things that he said about South Africa, some of the things that he said about Africa in comparison to Belgium. I mean, some very, very silly Eurocentric things very, very suspicious things that he says from time to time. But the results on the field are obviously speaking for themselves. Even with that said, however, I'd say that most Bafana fans were surprised by our performance at the AFCON. And I think that was probably the beginning of us believing in Hugo Broos's work and believing once again in South Africa's capacity to be among the best teams on the continent, which we have been before. Right. And one can even argue that since our reintegration into world football, African football, since apartheid, we've been more so an African giant than not, which is one of the reasons why people will speak of us as having underachieved and having failed, because the expectations have been, excuse me, the expectations have been high. But finally, we look like we're putting things together, domestically based players. Obviously, London Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns have been leading our charges on continental football.
Champions League as well.
Yes, exactly. You know, but one of the things that's underlooked about South Africa is the fact that we're not only producing domestically based players very well, we're also producing a number of very good coaches who are doing well beyond the South African borders, particularly in North Africa. There's been a couple of coaches. Obviously, Pitso Mosimane has done a foray into the Middle East, right? There were talks of him going up into Europe.
I'm always going to talk about Pitso.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you have Benny McCarthy, who's now the coach of Kenya. You know what I mean? Bradley Cornell has been doing very well in America from going from team to team in the MLS. So we are producing football products on a holistic level. And I think that work all coming together is showing that South Africa can be a talent on the African continent consistently, and then hopefully in the future build towards being a world power.
Yeah, which brings me to my point. Back in the 90s, Clemens Westerhoff built the Golden Age Super Eagles, as many would call it. That core of that team were home-based players, from the likes of Finidi George to what's it called, Daniel Amokachi, who was picked up from the Principals Cup, a local grassroots football competition in Nigeria, as well as many others, the Emmanuel Amunikes and whatnot. But just a very few were actually professional-based players, and we know what happened to them. Finidi George was with Calabar Rovers at some point, and he moved on to Ajax, and we know the rest is history and the likes. And that's what happened to the Super Eagles. From that 1990 squad went on to become, into the 2000s, into the Nigeria-Ghana 2000 Nations Cup, was that same core. And that's because we also had a very good grassroots categories in terms of our football. Players graduated from the under-17 to the under-20 to the under-23, the likes of Victor Ekpeba, Emmanuel Okocha, and even Austin Okocha all played, for the youth level before they graduated to the senior side. So in terms of what South Africa is doing right now, Mamelodi Sundowns has a number of players in the squad. Orlando Pirates, and in fact, more local-based players are there. I mean, President Tau was recently with the Qatar League now, and the likes of Lyle Foster too, who has not been in the team for a while. He plays for Burnley. He's back in the side. Who took that decision? Was it an FA thing, or was it Hugo Bros, or was it an organic decision from the top to bottom to say this is how we want to play our football and this is how we want to be inviting players going forward?
That's actually a fantastic question, FX, and the answer is it was organic. It's the latter of those. It was organic. South Africa's best players are currently in South Africa. And I think we've done a very good job. Unlike, for example, Brazil, where I'm based now, of looking at the football and saying, how does this guy play? How does this guy play? How does he fit into our tactics and to our football? Rather than, what's the prestige of the club? What's the prestige of the club? Or if he plays there, he must be good enough for our national team. And I think South Africa, we've always done well to not necessarily do that and to really pick players based on obviously their performances for their club, but also what do the fans want to see? You see, I think the fans are an underutilized resource, particularly in larger nations. Our fans know our football. They know our history. They know the kinds of players that were successful at AFCONs. They know the kind of players that helped us qualify for World Cup and so on and so forth. So I think that's also been another resource to say, hey, who are the players that are igniting the nation? Because the players themselves are also fans. The players themselves are also fans. They're fans of one another. They're fans of football. And so we've just done a good job of saying, who are the footballers here? Not who are the big boys with their agents in Europe. We know that agents, scouts, they're fallible. They're fallible. Yeah. We're all fallible. So we look at what is the kind of football we want to play. And frankly, the football we're playing now is very South African. We've always been a team that loves the ball. We've always been a team that has flair players.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, go on. Yeah, exactly. These are teams that have always loved to play, clever little players. We've never been physically imposing. We've never been a team that's very successful with long balls because we can't compete with some of the giants on the African continent, including teams like Nigeria, right, who are physically far more imposing. So we've put the ball on the ground. We're moving around and we're being inspired by our cultural style from the ghettos, from the streets of Southern Africa. And I think that's one of the things that all African teams need to do. And that is why you're seeing a rise, I think, across the continent of African coaches in a general sense. Even if they're not necessarily coaching their own national team, they're coaching other African national teams, because we're starting to recognize that we need to value our own football. And I think it's bearing fruit. In Morocco, it's bearing fruit, in a number of nations, it's bearing fruit. So I think South Africa is one of the forerunners of that, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa.
Nice one, Mbizo. And now, of course, I have to hear my man. He just joined us. Pidgin, football in Pidgin, I beg your pardon. And it's Akpos, my man, joining us. Legendary African football talker. This man knows his football. He knows African football, and it's good to have you on the show. And I'm sure he knows Mbizo. Banter between Mbizo and football in Pidgin is going to be hard. I hope so. In this game, when we start talking about that crucial fixture between South Africa and Nigeria in September. It's good to have you on the show, Football in Pidgin. How you doing, brother?
Well, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show, FX. And shout out to Tono TV. Shout out to Kanebi. Shout out to the Nigerian Englishman Kunle and the rest of the guys. Shout out also to Ibro, my guy, even though he's a Manchester United fan. Big up to all the amazing work my Tono TV family, you guys are doing. You guys are putting us on the map, and also making Nigeria proud, making African football proud. So shout out to you guys and keep up the good work.
Nice one. Football in Pidgin. Akpos, I always just be calling you Akpos. It's hard to call that football in Pidgin, my brother. You get as if you make a
call me Akpos. Yeah.
Yes, Akpos. It's good to have you. And of course, if you guys are just joining us, smash the like buttons. And Momsi, I'm trying to read out one of these guys, and it's Momsi's favorite child.
Monsi Talks.
Monsi Talks. Big up, guys. Nice one, Monsi Talks. Thank you very much for that comment. But yeah, Akpos, we're just talking about how South Africa has developed over the years, and that mixture of the local-based players, and Mbizo has made it clear that that it's just organic, and they made that decision from the players to the administrators to the coach and everybody else accepting that. I want to run through the key players for South Africa, really, between you and I, the dangerous ones, because we meet them in September, and that game against Zimbabwe in March was another test for the Super Eagles at home. The Super Eagles just don't know how to do the business at home. And we've been struggling a lot in recent years at home. And it was all to say against Zimbabwe, drawing that game 1-1. And it was, some would say, 4 points from 2 games, still a good result. Mathematically, we're still in it. But really, it's a tough one now. We have to win all the remaining 4 games in our next games, which is, of course, against Rwanda and South Africa in September. I want to run through a list of players for South Africa, the key players, I think. And I want us to go through of course, the ineligible player that they played, and in Tebogo Mokoena as well. Tebogo Mokoena, I beg your pardon.
That's a big elephant in the room.
That's the main one, really. But from the goalkeeper, from the CAF goalkeeper of the year, Rowan Williams, Mamelodi Sundowns, he's been in spectacular form for them, and he's good to go, really. He's the guy to beat, really, and that's one of the reasons why they're topping the group, because South Africa haven't conceded that many goals in this World Cup qualifier. They also have Presita, who has been drafted back into the side. Jaden Adams, Lau Foster, Grant Kekana, as well as Themba Zwane. Correct me if I'm wrong with the pronunciation.
Yeah, Akpos was right. Themba Zwane.
Yeah, he's 35 years old, and I think he just clocked his 50th cap, and he scored that first goal against South Africa. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I've picked the right players to focus on, Akpos. These guys are the problems. Of course, the rest of the players, this is a 23-man squad, but this team is a major problem for anybody in Africa right now. And it will take a miracle, really, for the Super Eagles to offset the South Africans, even if they're deducted 3 points. Go on, bro.
Well, I think we have the specialists when it comes to the key guys to look out for in the South African team in Mbizo and Zamani. I think is the main man to go with that. But I've always kept my eyes on the South African team since the last AFCON. the build up to the AFCON, and from then onwards, I've kept my eyes on a lot of these players, and I've been keen to look at how they were doing, especially coupled with the fact that we are in the same World Cup qualifying group with them. And my rivalry with Mbizo and the rest of my all the South African brothers during the AFCON has also made me, they say you need to keep your enemies close. I've always kept my eyes on those guys to see how they are doing. So you mentioned a lot of the names for us to for us to keep our eyes on. Themba Zwane is one of the most experienced guys. Is one of the danger man, one of the players who know how to play under the heat, who know how to play under the pressure. Percy Tau, Percy Mercy, like a lot of South Africans would like to call him, is one of those guys who sometimes he does not live up to the expectation. The South African fans put a lot of expectation and they put a lot of burden on Percy Tau's shoulder. A lot of time they look forward to him for creativity, for goals. So sometimes he does not live up to the expectation, but he's also one of the guys who is very dangerous. And Mbizo hit the nail on the head when he was saying this South African team has gone back into the drawing board. They had a period where they were not playing up to the expectation. They were not, getting the results. They were not living up to the hype, living up to the standard that they have set for themselves over time. But they've gone back to the drawing board and say, look, and they've decided to look, what can we do? They need to go back to playing to their strength. They are, like Mbizo said, they are not one of the very physically imposing African teams. So they have gone back to their strength. They have decided to put the ball on the ground. They have decided to play with very technical and very creative players. And also Hugo Bros, somebody who collects a lot of stick from Mbizo, because I am in the same WhatsApp group with him. I see when he's always criticizing his tactics and all. But so far, I think Hugo Bros has also, has achieved a good fate with this South African team. He's a very good tactician. He's somebody who understands the game, reads his opponents very well. So this South African team, for me, I think they're a very big problem. We have a very big problem in our hands in this World Cup qualifying group, and also in the AFCON that is going to take place next year. A lot of people need to keep eye on the South African team. They are going to be one of the teams, who could potentially go there and go all the way to the final. So Themba Zwane for me, one of the guys to look in. Like I was saying with Teboho Mokoena, I think is the most important South African player, outfield player in that team. I need to also mention Ronwe Williams. You like you said, FX. Ronwe Williams is one of the reasons why this team concede so minimal, very, very they concede next to nothing goals in most of their encounter, because we saw in the last AFCON how he's very commanding. He's not just a goalkeeper who's a good shot stopper, he's a very good organizer of his defense, he's a very good leader of the defense also. So that is something we also need to talk about. Ronwe Williams for me is also one of the very important guys, but Mokoena for me, if he's out of that team, the team will suffer in midfield. When it was going to miss the last game with all the ineligible player talk, Mbizo was very worried. Not just him, a lot of South Africans were very worried in the last encounter where he did not play, because they had to take him out after it came out that they made a mistake to play him in a game before that, because he was not eligible to play because of a yellow card situation. So Mokoena for me I think is the main guy in that outfield for the South African team. If we can keep him quiet, in that encounter, I think we'll be, one step closer to beating the South African team. But we also need to keep the likes of Themba Zwane, Percy Tau quiet, and we also need to hope that Ronwe Williams also, when we play South Africa, Ronwe Williams should not have a fantastic day. If he has a fantastic day, then it will be very difficult to beat the Bafana. But if he has a bad day at the office where he's conceding a lot of goals, then we can say yes, we could put maybe two or more goals past him. But if he's having the day where is stopping everything inside, then it's going to be a difficult night for us.
It's going to be a very difficult game. I thank you for that. I know that, and the thing about the Super Eagles is we waste a lot of chances. We saw that against Zimbabwe. We missed a lot of chances. You're going to play against Rwanda that we beat away, you have to be lethal. And it brings me to that point, Mbizo. And I mean, guys, if you're just joining us, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe. Mbizo Joga Afro is a football journalist, also a football coach, and he's based in Brazil. So this man knows his football. Mbizo, the technicalities of Teboho Mokoena. The fact is, he's a very, very important player. So I'm sure you were livid with what happened. Nigeria also made that mistake in 2014 as well. but luckily we had more points. Algeria, where Algeria had, we did play against Algeria, and we shouldn't have. I'm trying to remember who it was. Maybe it was Akpos. Can you remember the player? Just my football brain, my football archive is trying to pick.
I think it was Shehu. It was Shehu. I think it was Abdullahi Shehu.
Abdullahi Shehu, thank you very much. Abdullahi Shehu was the right back who could also play right back and defense midfield. And defensive midfield. And eventually we were deducted points. But because we had an extra 3 points, because we had won a number of games, we were still able to qualify for Brazil 2014. So in this aspect now, there's a possibility South Africa will lose 3 points. Tebelgo Mokoena would definitely play against Nigeria, because I'm sure FIFA and CAF will look into this, and I have a feeling it's until the qualifiers are over, which is what happened in 2014, before a judgment will be given. Really quickly, I'll read out one of the comments from one of our South African followers, Luyanda Kasi. Kasi says, if your hope is on South Africa being deducted 3 points, then forget, because my close source confirmed that it's not true. Okay, Luyanda, I hope you are really right. But Mbizo, over to you, brother.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was very frustrating, and Bafana fans will know that we have a history of these kind of small mismanagements, of miscalculating the points and how many points we need to get. Do we need a defeat? Do we need a tie? Do we need to win? Or what the case might be. And I think it speaks to, again, this holistic idea, not just for South Africa, but on the continent of continuing to professionalize, continuing to hold ourselves to a higher standard, not just on the football pitch, but in the back offices and with the management of the football team. And of course, I would like to echo Luyanda. I'd like to echo Luyanda's confidence and sentiment that obviously we don't expect or we don't want this to have any bearing on. So
Mbizo, are you saying you don't expect or you don't want FIFA to do the right thing? I want to get you straight, because
no. I will accept the sanction. I will accept the sanction, Akpos. Of course, if we have broken the rules, if that has been found to be the case, then I expect that sanction. What I'm saying is, I don't hope that it will obviously affect our charge towards qualification, and I don't believe that it will, on the basis of the way that we've been playing. I think we've been playing such good football, some of the best football on the continent. And if you look at unbeaten records across the world, across the globe, we are among the some of the best informed teams on the planet. So I don't expect it to necessarily have an impact on us. But I'm a Bafana fan. So I have been through some very traumatic experiences. And so there's a side of me that gets anxious. Why are we self-sabotaging at this in this epoch, at this moment of praxis, of all the work that we've done, of all the things that we've put together, bringing up our youth players from youth Bafana teams, from youth South Africa teams, and having that continuity, having these systems. I mean, I saw someone in the comments say we're playing shoe-shine football. That's our beautiful game, our way of expressing ourselves. So it just, guys, can you guys hear me? Are we there?
Yeah.
We're breaking up.
I think I've returned. It leaves me. All right. It just leaves me a little bit anxious because, again, no matter what you say about Nigeria's performances, this is a giant of the African game. And so who knows if Nigeria can go on a 4-game unbeaten run and include beating South Africa. And then if we have that minus of that point, it becomes a precarious position all of a sudden, very suddenly. And we've gone through that before as South African fans. So I am a bit anxious. I am a bit worried about that. But at the same time, I want to place confidence on the boys to say they'll get the job done, because it would be irrelevant if we went out and played the way we've been playing. It'll be irrelevant. because we'll get the results that we need to get. I'm positive that it'll be a tough match against Nigeria, regardless of what their situation is. But I am also feeling confident that we can get the result there, and I think 1 point would do it. A point would do it, but it would be delectable to get a full 3 points against the Super Eagles, of course.
You guys are at home, Mbizo, and South Africa is at home. I'm trying to remember the name of the stadium. I got a lot of comments after.
The truth is, Nigeria will be home as well. If it's in South Africa, Nigeria will be home as well. There's no advantage there.
I get you. On that side, but a lot of South African fans, especially in the comment section, were saying, "You're coming to our stadium." They kept on mentioning the name. Is it James? Something I'm trying to remember. And Mbizo, what's the name of your home stadium?
I actually can't remember where we're playing. To be honest,
they've moved. This is embarrassing from my end. I should have done my homework, but I know it's a stadium that is more like a fortress now in terms of this World Cup qualifiers, and lots of African fans were just hitting at us like Nigeria is going to get beaten, and they were so confident that Nigeria is not even going to come away with the points. Look, if at all, at least I'll take this to one of the comments here in terms of we ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere, and that's coming from Ibrahim saying Nigerian Super Eagles are not going anywhere. We're going for it. It's all or nothing really, and it brings me to Akpos really. Eric Chelle, 2 games. Again, in the last Eagles Watch report that I did with my friend Leslie, we spoke about Eric Chelle's CV, his chances. It's quite unfortunate that his first 2 games were a World Cup qualifier. And what a way to start. He gets his first win against Rwanda. We played very well. We dominated Rwanda, and getting those 2 goals from Victor Osimhen was a delight. We started really well against Zimbabwe as well at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium in New York.
New York.
Not clinical. We were just not clinical. In terms of what you've seen from Eric Chelle in those 2 games, I would point out one thing majorly, Akpos, was he started the same 11 that he started against Rwanda, and he started that same 11 against Zimbabwe. Don't you think he should have rested and kind of rotated in a way, and that would have brought on some freshness of somewhat, because a lot of loose crosses from Samuel Chukwueze, a lot of long, poor passes and crosses from Moses Simon. They were just not giving the ball to Ademola Lookman or Victor Osimhen. Just give me an analysis of what you thought about Eric Chelle and that game, and of course his decision making in terms of the starting lineup for both games.
Thank you, FX. Before I would go into the nitty-gritty of Eric Chelle, the Zimbabwe encounter, and also touch a little bit of the game with the Mavobis of Rwanda, I want to put small pepper on our brother Mosito, our South African brother Mosito. Yes, Lesotho did file a complaint. But because I saw this comment from him saying for the sanction to be applicable, Lesotho would have had filed a complaint, which they did not, but that's not what happened, Mosito. They did file a complaint, but it was a little bit late because I think there's a 24 or 48 hours window of for the complaint to go
Akpos, just answer the question.
I want us to bring a little bit of that rivalry into the stream, because our South African brothers have also said in our group chat, let me bring it on here. They've also said if Lesotho go ahead with this complaint, then they would have no home ground to continue to execute all their World Cup qualifiers.
Yeah, they'll play in the Maluti Mountains. They'll play in the mountains.
because all their World Cup qualifiers game are in South Africa. But yes, Lesotho did put out a complaint, and also the NFF are also, making a protest also to CAF. So it will be interesting to see how that will pan out. But if I would want to come back to the question you were asking me, FX, after, that's a little bit banter and back and forth with our South African brother, because I think this stream will not be complete without the banter and the back and forth with them. Yes, we have to spice it up. So, but with Eric Chelle, I think we were already in a very difficult situation before Eric Chelle took the job. Because from some of the things that I have also seen happening after Eric Chelle took the job, some of the people we also approached to take this job, they also saw us in a very difficult situation. They are wearing white currently, and they decided not to let Nigeria stain their white with poto. So Eric Chelle also, I need to commend him for also taking the job, because yes, this is the job that puts him on the map, but he's coming to take the job now in a very critical and crucial moment. Anything he would do that goes wrong will be put under a large microscope. The Nigerian media would crucify him. Nigerian fans would crucify him. So firstly, I want to give credit to Eric Chelle. Yes, it's a big job. I think this is the biggest job in his career so far. And we are also putting him on the map, but I want to commend him for stepping up to take the job now at a very crucial time and a difficult moment for Nigeria. Because going into this game, me personally, I would not want to judge Eric Chelle with the World Cup qualifiers, because we already put ourselves in a deep mess. But I think this is a stepping stone for him to build on greater things, because I think the AFCON is where I would really want to judge him, because I would say, yes, okay, he would have enough time to prepare. He would have enough time to build his team. Because this World Cup qualifiers, if you look at the list, that list had the NFF, the technical advisor, written all over that list. That was not Eric Chelle's list. And also with a lot of information I've gotten when the list came out afterwards, I could also confirm to you that that was not Eric Chelle's list. That was the NFF and the technical advisor, putting that list together. So I would want to judge the man when he begins to put out his own team out there, when he begins to, he have the player that he could potentially call that these are my guys. Because how many days did he have? How many training sessions did he have before the encounter with the Amabobis of Rwanda? Before the game with also the Warriors of Zimbabwe. So for me, I think it's very early for us to to begin to judge Eric Chelle now. I think the jury is still out there. But what I saw against the Amabobis of Rwanda, I want to start first from that game. What I saw from that game was very encouraging for me, because that was the first time we were beating Rwanda in Kigali since we've played them. The last time we played them was a 0-0 draw. We came close, to beating them under their former coach, what's his name? Stipler, I think the German coach, and they were very, 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 very well organized side in that encounter. We came close to scoring with Victor Boniface. We hit the woodwork. But the game under Eric Chelle, I saw a very, very tactical approach from the team. I was also very surprised with the all-attacking selection he did at the start of the game. I was, expecting him to play a little bit of conservative style in that first half, but I saw him, going out there to get the win. And credit also to Victor Osimhen with the way, he took both goals. I think the second goal gave us a cushion. And in the second half, we saw a very, very well-controlled performance. I think we managed the game very well. So I have to give Eric Chelle with how, he executed the plan against the Amavobis of Rwanda, and also how his players, interpreted the plan. Because we should also not forget that this Rwanda national team have also stinged us in Gospel Akpabio Stadium in that AFCON qualifiers. We could say, yes, it was not a very important game as we have already qualified, but they also came to our backyard to beat us. So to go out there in Rwanda to beat them, for me, was not an easy task, in my opinion. And I want to give Eric Chelle total credit for that game. But the game against Rwanda, I also wanted him to play with the same 11 FX. So I would disagree with you a little bit on. I'm sorry, against Zimbabwe. Yes. So I would disagree with you a little bit on that one, because for me, I think the game was very important. We needed to win that game, and I did not expect him to change too much. But yes, you also have your concern with the trip back and forth from Rwanda and all that, fatigue and all. But for me personally, I wanted him to field the same 11. I think the plan he had was going on well, but it was the players who did not execute on the day. In that first half, we had a lot of chances to put that game to rest, but yet again, we did not take our chances. And this has been one of the problems we've seen in recent time, especially in the World Cup qualifiers. We create chances and we did not put the ball in the back of the net, and that was one of the issues against Zimbabwe. And in the second half, that was where, yes, I would appropriate some blames to Eric Chelle with his substitution after we went one goal up. just maybe it would have the substitution should have been a little bit on the defensive side, try to manage the game and all. I think, yes, it did not work out. That's why we are here criticizing him for that substitution. Now, if it had worked out, maybe if we got the second goal, we would have, given him the kudos and, the props that say, okay, yes, he got his tactics particularly perfect there. But just maybe we should have gone into a little bit more conservative shape there to, protect the lead. But also, we also need to blame the players because for me, we had no business conceding there. That game was, closed shop. After getting the goal, we should have closed up shop by all means possible.
We'll get the Akpos. To be honest, that game, if we want to go, we'll go on and on. But we'll get to that part. And there's a particular segment that I want us to actually talk about it. And obviously, it centers around our captain, Truce Ekong. But hey, guys, I want to quickly read some of the comments. And I'm going to go to Mbizo. But welcome, Solomon. Good to have you. Finally, you join us. How are you, sir? You good?
You're on mute.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
So yeah, I'm good. Yeah, it's been poor network from where I received bad network from where, but big up the panel. It's nice to actually be on the show this afternoon.
Big up, brother.
It's fine. let me quickly read the comments. But of course, just joining us. This is Tunnel TV Eagles Pod Watch, and we've got the panelists in the house, and Mbizo, Akpos, and Solomon who just joined us. And there's a guy called Mosquito Romali. I believe he's South African as well. This Bafana, and it says this Bafana team has a bright glory back to badge. Whatever that means. But another guy, Bronson Mokabela, as a South African, I would prefer us to be one of the countries that gets to go to the World Cup. Of course, you want that to happen. Who doesn't want that country to go to the World Cup? And finally, someone here says, his name is D Squad. He says, hello, guys. Hello, back. Thank you for tuning in. And I'm coming to you, Mbizo. You are going to say something about Eric Chelle. And, I mean, you've known Eric Chelle from his time with the Malian national team. I know you spoke highly of him at this last AFCON when you were on one of the football analysts on the CBS show where you were talking about the Malian side and, of course, how emotional it was for in that game against Ivory Coast. I know we had a back-to-back about a back-end conversation about him as a coach, not knowing that eventually, maybe almost a year after he was going to become the coach of the Super Eagles. Have your say on Eric Chelle, my brother.
Just quick, gentlemen. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave this delicious stream. But before I go, I just wanted to leave my initial reactions to Eric Chelle. Let me be very clear. My praise was for the level of talent in that Mali squad. The number of youngsters that they have who are, I think, going to make an indelible mark on African and world football. But Eric Chelle himself, I'm still suspicious. I think Akpos will know from our discussions in our African football group chats.
I know.
I'm very suspicious of him. I think Akpos made some very good points about having to wait until AFCON to judge his work for Nigeria on the basis of his work for Nigeria. But if I'm to give my initial reactions, it would have to be based on his performances for Mali. And he never struck me as being in total control. He never struck me as being completely astute in the use of the talent that he has, in the tactics and approach that he had. I don't feel that I feel that pretty much any other coach could have done a bit better than Eric Chelle. I thought Mali was underwhelming, despite the kind of players that they have in their football team. I mean, they have players who can be the heartbeat of any team in the world. I mean, some really top-class players. But they just always seemed mediocre. Even in their victories, they always seemed like they never quite reached their potential. And then, of course, there was that loss to Ivory Coast, which to me was mismanagement on his part. Of course, the players need to be focused. They need to win the game. They need to go all the way up until the final whistle. But for me, Eric Chelle didn't display a coach in the same way he might not have done for Nigeria against Zimbabwe. He didn't display a coach who knows how to wrap up a game, who knows how to lock it down and put the result in the bag. And I don't feel it should all be up to the players at that point in time. You are there because you're experienced. You are there because you're the head of the team. You need to make decisions that secure victory for your team under such intense and pressurized circumstances. And for me, he hasn't proved able to do that. Mali should have done.
He was too emotional in that game.
Mali should have done better. Mali should have done better, and I agree with Akpos. Let's give him a little bit of time, but I suspect by the end of this tenure that we give him and say, go on Eric Chelle, I think we're going to come to the same conclusion. Albeit he's dealing with different issues in Nigeria than he is dealing with Mali. Absolutely, NFF is its own beast altogether. For example, but for me, I'm not completely 100% confident in Eric Chelle, with all due respect to him. But I'm going along with Akpos. I was encouraged by the team that he put out in his first match. I think that was against Rwanda. Not only the performance, but initially when I saw the team sheet, I thought, that's courageous. He wants to play. That was my initial thought. So I liked that, and I thought the same about the team against Zimbabwe. But now let's see if the results are going to match the ideas which he seems to be implementing. And just one thing, Luyanda and Mbizo is meeting in Xhosa. Gentlemen, I'm off.
Big up, my brother. Big up. Thank you for
joining us. Big up, Mbizo.
Enjoy the show.
Nice one. Thank you for your golden analysis, and look forward to seeing you again, brother.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Mbizo's gone. Solomon, I'm coming to you, but before I come to you, another guy is saying that, so the strategy for us, Bronson Mokabela, obviously South African, he said, so the strategy is hope. Hey, the guy, they laugh us. Now, wow. See, Solomon, Super Eagles, the Super Eagles of Nigeria is many will say, are the giants of Africa. We expect a lot from the Super Eagles. That's why a number of Africans come to our comment section and they're always laughing at Nigerians, especially when we draw or lose a game. You guys are still living in the past. And that's because we expect a lot from the talents that we have. Not to talk about even the local scene in terms of the local football. We're even talking about the current team that we have right now, the core players, the guys doing so well in Europe right now. I can mention 10 players that are doing so well in Europe right now that you'll be like, Super Eagles comfortably should be on top of any qualifying group that they're in, whether it's the World Cup or the AFCON qualifiers. Because, I mean, look at the numbers. We could go through Victor Osimhen. 25 appearances in the league, 21 goals, 4 assists. In the Europa League, 7 games, 6 goals, 2 assists. In the Turkish Cup, 3 games, 3 goals. In total, 35 appearances, 30 goals already for Victor Osimhen. He's in the form of his life. But he's been in the form of his life for the past 2 seasons, Solomon. Same with Tolu Arukudare, the Genk boy playing in the Super Juniper League, which is the Belgian league. Man, them has 30 appearances, 17 goals already. Alex Iwobi in the form of his life. He has played all the games for Fulham this season. All 33 games for Fulham this season. Form of his life. 9 goals already. Scored against Chelsea in the last game. Solomon, Nigeria should not be struggling in 4th in this World Cup qualifier, really. What is going on with us, man?
First of all, big up. Thank you so much for having me on the panel this afternoon. I actually am so delighted to be here, and big up everybody on the panel so far. Boss, well done. I love everything that you guys do. Big up every one of you. But quickly, let's just speak about Super Eagles. Let me tell you something. If you know how Super Eagles used to make me feel every day we play, then you will understand. Each time we finish a match, I'm telling you, FX, when we finish a match, sometimes I will just go and sit down and start thinking that which way now, what is going to happen. Now, you don't need to start giving emphasis on the kind of players that we have. There's no need to study for you to start reading stats. Everybody, I'm telling you, I'm saying it comfortably here now. I'll pick Osimhen ahead of any striker in the world right now. I'm an Arsenal fan, like you know. I will pick Osimhen ahead of Erling Haaland, and that's my personal preference. I've said this many times. Why? Because Haaland actually has, he needs to get the supply to get goals. Osimhen doesn't actually need that supply. He works for the goal himself. He's a machine. He's always doable. So you don't need to start telling us the stats of our players. We know we have good players, but as usual, Baba, we must always punch calculator. We go always put ourselves for that place where we say we must always punch calculator, and that is the problem that we have. I don't know whether it's a cause. I don't know whether it's a problem. I don't know. And to me, what I put it down to personally, I feel is when you do not prepare. Let me tell you something. When you do not prepare, you say when you fail to plan, then the best thing is you have planned to fail. Now, I think most of the time, I think the problem with the Super Eagles has not been the fact of it's not the question of quality. It's not the question of players that we need to play. I think it has the problem of proper planning. Okay, for example, let me give you one of the problems I feel that we see that is going on that doesn't help our team. Now, most of the time, kudos to the new coach, Chelle, who was able to get all the players to get in camp probably a week before the games. But my brother, let me ask you, the last game we played before then, when did most of our players arrive? They arrived 2 days, 3 days to the game. Now, when you come in, how do you expect a coach who has not, been with this player, who doesn't know how fit they are, to actually get the best out of those players? Now, that is on the NFF side. Now, speaking on the player side too, we have some couple of players that I feel are not doing enough. I'm sorry to say, big up, I love all our players. Like, I'm always, if you check some of the content I've always, been present in, I'm the kind of person that supports once you're a local man, I support you. But the truth of the matter is that, let's be honest, some of our players are not doing enough. Let me tell you something. You saw Osimhen's reaction after the game against Zimbabwe. You guys saw the reactions, right? Yes. Now, my question is, look at that is somebody who actually feel pain for what happened. Look at Boniface. I'm very sorry, no disrespect to him, but I was disappointed at the attitude of the players to that game. Yes, a lot of things went wrong. I could apportion the blame to anybody, talk about the manager, talk about everybody. But generally, even the attitude of the players, they are not giving 100%. I can only count 2 players or 3 to 3 players that are giving their 100% in that game. Osimhen left that game to people expecting them to give their best. I'm telling you, what are all our players doing? Ball watching. That last goal we considered, they were all ball watching. In fact, I thought it was Ola who was in that. I didn't know it was what's this guy? It was this guy that was in that goal. I had already shredded Ola, to the core. Later I found that it was not Ola, it was the other guy. It was Bright Osai Samuel that had that issue. But yes, but the issue, the point I'm saying is that yes, naturally, with the skill and quality of players we have, I feel we should be. In fact, when I saw the group, I felt like, oh, we are winning the AFCON. That we are winning the group by 1. The only problem we should be going out of the, we should be qualifying for the World Cup any day, anytime. But the problem I have is these players. The problem I have is that we always make things difficult for ourselves. Either we shoot ourselves in the leg with our performances, or our players getting involved with some things that doing some things, not doing enough. But that's just what happens. So at the end of everything, we'll come back. We'll come and use calculator. God will help us. I think that's just all I can say, FX, honestly. That's all I can say, honestly.
Nice one, Solomon. I agree with some of your points in terms of some of the players that are not being prepared in terms of taking our World Cup campaign serious. We've talked about in former episodes, in the last episode as well that we recorded, where preparation is very key, and you could tell that South Africans were fully prepared for this. You could tell that you look at other groups like Morocco, Egypt, they are fully prepared for this. It's a World Cup in Canada, in America, and Mexico. Nigeria has not, this has not happened to Nigeria since we made our first World Cup in 1994, where we've failed to qualify for back-to-back World Cups. Not qualifying for Qatar was very painful, and we're at the verge of not qualifying for this World Cup. We will hurt, but my disagreements might come with the fact that maybe you are just pointing alone at the players. We have to also look at it holistically. We've used how many coaches in this World Cup campaign? We've used Jose Peseiro, we've used George Finidi, and now we're going through Chelle. 3 coaches in the World Cup campaign is just poor.
That is why. Sorry, FX. That was what I said concerning. I said something first. You didn't pick me. I said the first problem is NFF. You know, we don't have to be opening our we don't have to be opening our ass here. You know now. NFF. You know
Bro,
the
we
way.
have to
You don't need to
talk
be.
about it. Solomon, sorry, let me come in.
Honestly,
We have to talk about it. This show is to go into the nitty-gritty of of everything Nigerian football for me. So a lot of times I've been in your position also, Solomon, where I felt like, okay, we don't have to talk about it, but we have to go into the root cause of these problems we are facing right now. And you hit the nail on the head. If we need a lasting solution, we need to go deep down to the NFF. Because you've talked a lot about our preparation, and we are seeing the results of not preparing to qualify for the World Cup. Because what we are seeing now, it's how we've laid our bed over time. That's how we are laying on it now. So for me, you hit the nail on the end, and let's talk about it. So you have the table,
sorry.
Solomon. Go ahead.
Let me just say something. Let me say something, guys. Now, look at this situation. Even before we got into this predicament, how do you think we got into this predicament in the first place? How did we lose the first games, all those games? How do you remember now? We didn't have a coach. Do you mean that we didn't have a coach for the qualifiers, for the first one? You know that we had to get someone. The coach that came in, Finidi George came in in fact, a week to that particular for our first game in the World Cup qualifier. Finidi was not yet confirmed. It was going to be him. It was not him. The problem is that there is no way you can tell me that you are planning. That there will always be a difference between somebody that planned and somebody that is just going there. You have to plan. So and then I need to ask the panel. I need to ask everyone generally this question. Somebody said this to me when I made this complaint. Said we should know that NFF cannot change. Since beginning, NFF has been like that, and people are still getting the best. We still want to point. Is it right for us to be having that attitude generally, saying that NFF has been the same since then, and it's still going to be there since now, and is the coach that is supposed to find a way? Is it possible for a coach to be successful without the support of the footballing federation, who is supposed to support him? A manager that does not imagine. I watched England's game, watch other countries. You see coach fly to go and watch two of their players playing. I've seen many coaches go and watch it. See, you see Galatasaray playing Fenerbahce, and we have Osimhen versus Obachi Samuel. Look at the way all these players are playing. Let this coach go on scouting. We don't even have pitches to play football. We have only one national team. A lot of things is wrong. So for me, I don't think we are prepared enough. Do you think it's right for people to be having that ideology? Please, I would like to know.
I mean, you're right in some aspects, but also if just to correct you also, so I mean maybe not correct, but just to add info. I think Eric Chelle did that when he first signed for the Super Eagles. He did that mainly around England, Spain, and I think maybe Italy. And he went to a number of games to visit the players, but he wanted to create an acquaintance and a camaraderie that, like, okay, I'm here to watch you guys and have like a proper relationship with his players. So he did that. But if we're going to be real, the NFF, Nigeria as a country, we do not have the funds. The National Sports Commission who is in support with the NFF too, are trying to help in terms of all those kind of things to help create a roadmap for our football. But in terms of this guy flying around to check, it won't happen, my brother Solo. Let's go back. Let's even go ahead and what this about in terms of what happened against Zimbabwe. We do not want that to happen again, for sure, in our remaining 4 games. It was evident that by the second half, as Akpos said, was Eric Chelle kind of was a bit, I would like to say naive, and that comes with territory when you do not know your players too well. Maybe you should have gone conservative. Yes, we're leading 1-0. Yeah, who cares? It's Zimbabwe. Lock up, lock shop, go defensive, and let us, as much as possible, play the ball ahead and ensure that we press high and don't give them chances. But he still went attacking. And I think he wanted to kill the game off by adding more attacking threats. Tolu Arukudare came on and whatnot. But if we were to look at it from that aspect, we
Wait, hold on. Let me see something. Yeah? Like you said something, FX. You said if it had worked when he did that, we would have been praising him by now. Yeah, let me tell you something. The quality of player we had on the pitch, I don't want anybody to tell me anything that is different from this. The quality, we didn't need to, had more defenders to hold on to that Zimbabwe. I'm not saying I'm right. Like I'm totally like my idea is right, but the quality of player we had on on the pitch that time was if they were focused enough, they were capable of holding on to that game. I'm telling you, yes, I understand the fact that yes, we are right to have said, okay, maybe you should have gone to a 3-5-2 or 3 whatever and added more central defenders. But for crying out loud, let's be honest with ourselves. We still had Ekong on the pitch. We still had both centre backs on the field. He had a midfielder, and then look at it. Okay, I have a question for you. Where exactly was Bright Osayi Samuel? What was he doing?
Okay, so for me, I mean, I'm going to bring this to Akpos, and well played, Solomon, because the truth is, if you look at that, the players on the pitch, yes, they should be able to hold on, and we shouldn't be conceding the last minute. But we always talk about the quality of players that we have on the pitch, the quality of the clubs they play for or the leagues they play for, and we also say this statement, it's a team sport, we shouldn't point fingers. But one thing I like about what our captain did was after that game, he took responsibility. He tweeted and he sent a message to me on Instagram to say, guilty, on to the next one. It was his fault, no doubt. He slept off. He switched off, and that goes, so this is to you, Akpos. That goes to, for me, if I want to dissect it properly, sometimes if you play in less competitive, less demanding leagues that is like the Saudi Pro League, for example, you can switch off in those kind of situations. And that's what happened to Ekong. A man of his experience and what he's given the Super Eagles in the last 2 years, it was a horrendous error, and I hope
he ball watched. He ball watched.
What are you thinking?
Well, I think you said something earlier on about a roadmap, and this is where the NFF come to play. What we saw against the Warriors of Zimbabwe at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium, we already saw a glimpse during the African Cup of Nations, but it did not really show that much because we were playing in a 3, more like in a back 5 system when we are without the ball. When we are with the ball, we are playing with 3 center backs. So I think that 3 center back system, it mitigated the loss of pace of William Troost-Ekong and some of the errors. And also, if we want to really critically analyze what happened in that final against Ivory Coast, we would also be pointing, fingers also to William Troost-Ekong. I think we already saw signs that William Troost-Ekong has lost some of his quality, because this comes with age. With age, definitely you would lose some of your athleticism and your pace and all that. So I think he has lost the space and all that. So, but we were not really ready before now, because that's why I said it takes us back to the roadmap. You as a team, when you begin to notice things like that, you should begin to prepare for what's going to happen now and what's going to happen in the future. Because now, if you look at this team, the way our team is currently set up, if you notice the first list that came out, there were not a lot of center backs that were invited. Then I think subsequently the next list, then we had more, I think maybe 1 or 2 more center backs that were added into the list. So we have not really prepared for what's going to happen in the absence of William Troost-Ekong. Who comes in? Who is going to take over the reins from William Troost-Ekong, because he's no longer playing as that defender that plays at his peak. Because one thing a lot of people are saying now is just maybe he has to be the captain on the bench moving forward for the Super Eagles, because we have had the captain on the bench a lot of times, the likes of Joseph Yobo, the likes of even Christian Shuku at one point, may so rest in peace, was also a captain on the bench. So I think a lot of people are looking into the transition from what's going to happen with that defense. We really need to, change things in that center back position, because we've missed Semi Ajayi, who is out injured recently in that defense, because when Semi Ajayi was in that defense, making it a back three system, I think we did not really see some of the problems we saw against Zimbabwe. But William Troost Ekong has shown that you could catch him with pace now. During the game in Zimbabwe, at some point in time, it was caught in no man's land because of his lack of pace and his wrong positioning. Because when you are at that age as the defender, you need to get your positioning right. And you need to match out the players that are going to play around you very well. Because if you notice, that goal came from his hand and Bright Osai's side of the defense. Because for me, the left side was very solid in that game. Calvin Bassey, Olaina had that side on the lock. But the right side was a problem also for us, even going forward in the game. So I think the manager, the technical advisor, they really need to look into what's going to happen in that defense moving forward. Who is going to come in for William Troost Ekong if he's not available? Because you talk about him playing out there in the league. But I think the problem we have with him right now, it's not just him playing there in the Saudi league, but also with his age. I think he has lost some of his, his physical attributes, his pace, and all of that. So I think we need a more younger center back that would be more physically imposing, that we be able to, match these attackers pound for pound when it comes to pace and all of that. So I think we need to begin to move on from the likes of William Troost Ekong. I did not say, it needs to be phased out totally from the team. We need to bring in younger guys that would come in and take over from the likes of William Troost Ekong, in my opinion.
Nice one, guys. I mean, we have to stop the show soon, Solomon. Sorry about that, but we're already past the 1 hour mark. I like what we've said. If we're going to, in conclusion, for me, it's just that we've done a lot in terms of this World Cup campaign. We've gone through all the players, we've gone through the coaches, we've spoken about our opponents in South Africa as well as Zimbabwe and Rwanda. But yeah, if at all, Eric Chelle might need to change some things in terms of the balance of the squad. Maybe playing Olaina, who's a steady quality right back for Nottingham Forest, who's practically the best right back. Maybe he shouldn't be starting as a left back for the Super Eagles. Maybe at some point he should have switched Olaina to the right and taking off Bright Osai. Maybe that goal might have not happened. But hey, these are things that will just be maybes or ifs, permutations or whatnot. But I have to thank you guys, the panelists. I wish you joined us earlier, but hey, it is what it is. Next time.
Thanks so much for having me, honestly. Thanks. Don't mind me. You know what is going on now. So it happened. Thank you.
Totally understand. Totally understandable. For next time, for sure, you come in earlier and we'll be able to dissect it. It's Tunnel TV, the Eagles Watch Pod. Thank you, Mbizo. Nice one, football in pidgin. That's Akpos. And lastly, of course, I have to read out the comments too just before we go. And it's another guy, Mosito Romanale, and he's saying for the sanction, which is the sanction for Tebeto Mokwena, is for the sanction to be applicable, Lesotho would have to have filed a complaint, which they didn't. Bro, we've spoken about it, it's too late. It is going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, too bad. And what else? Who's this person? Leander Kazi. The rule actually applied to the previous editions. Now look at Lesotho, also played blah, 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 blah. You guys should leave me alone. Whatever, man. Don't mind, there are a lot of haters, Solomon. Don't mind, they don't want the Super Eagles to do well.
We will still qualify. I tell them we are qualifying. We are qualifying.
Nice one.
All right, I'll see you on the next.
Eagles Watch Pod. Peace and love is FX. Nice one, guys.